Luckily, I'm doing it without Robbie Hummel. You know, listen, the bottom line here is it gets old. You know, like hearing about Hummel and his knees and his 19-inch vertical, it gets a little old. So Scott Van Pelt going solo here, and we're just going to talk some hoops. We're literally just going to talk some hoops, right, Scott?
I love it. I mean, it's a great time of year and a lot of news. I mean, some interesting news today that you're right there in the middle of. What a great guy. What a great coach Lon Kruger is.
The best. I mean, honestly, one of the best human beings you will ever deal with. I don't know how much you dealt with him. I'm sure a decent amount.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he just like the best thing about Lon Kruger is you walk into the arena before a game, Scott, and he's sitting there by himself in the stands. Like most coaches, they're on the bench. They don't want to be bothered. Lon Kruger's literally in the stands, so any fan can go up and sit next to him and start talking to him an hour before the game. Like, just a different dude. Every practice is open. The sport is going to miss Lon Kruger.
Yeah, but I mean, you saw the joy in that Zoom call with his son. And now, I mean, here's the thing about this profession, and you could probably say about a lot of professions. You do it, and there's this treadmill kind of a deal, right? Where you're just on the treadmill and you're grinding. But it's not a treadmill because time's passing. Right. And you know, there's a rhythm to it. And obviously it's been disrupted this year, but I mean, there's the season and then there's the spring and then there's a summer and you recruit, then you get in with your guys and then it's fall and then you into it and then it's conference and then hopefully you're in a tournament and then it starts again, right? Yeah. Well, you look up and it's like, wow, man, 25 years. Like it's in a blink. And I think, I get why for Boeheim or for Kay or for any of these uber successful coaches, like you keep doing it, you know, and particularly in Kay's case, you got a grandson, right? And in Jim's case, you got a son. Right. I get staying in, but I respect the hell out of somebody that has the ability to stop the treadmill and go, wait, I'm going to go to Vegas. I'm going to hang out. I'm going to watch my boy, and I'm going to be present in life. That's tremendous, and it's just you know the sport so well, and I think that the people that just look from the outside in, you can tell by the reaction across the board from people who've covered the sport how authentic and sincere their praise for Lon is.
Awesome, and that's what he's going to do. He told me he's not going in any official capacity. He's just literally going to be around his son, Kevin, who kind of surprisingly got the job as the head coach of UNLV and spent time with his grandkids. He built it's funny. So I remember breaking this story years ago when Lon went to Oklahoma. I think I was at either a regional or Final Four. I can't remember what, but it shocked the hell out of me because at that point he was building a house in Vegas. So he must have sold that house in Vegas at that point, has been at Oklahoma, and now he built a house again to go back to Vegas, and he's literally going to just hang out with his family. And it's like, I mean, to me, that it's something that so many coaches, like you said, don't do. They go, whether it's Jim Calhoun or Lute Olson or whoever, they go until health tells them they can't go anymore.
Well, but and I mean, look, let's not kid ourselves. The squeak of the sneaker, the bounce of the ball, the smell of a gym, man, it's drug to these guys. And you know, he'll be in the gym, he'll have access to the program, but you know what, he'll have access when he wants. So maybe some Tuesday didn't feel like going and deal with it.
It's not so bad.
I'll be hanging out here. You let me know when you guys are done. You want to grab dinner, So, good salute to him for a remarkable career.
All right. So the big question for you, Scott Van Pelt, how worried are you about the rumblings? The rumors already have started about Mark Turgeon to Oklahoma.
Man, it's a fascinating time right now in and around Maryland because the Turgeon topic is a very
flammable.
Well, it's really been like it's pitting Maryland fans against one another because there's a.
We see it on Twitter with you. We see it on Twitter with you. It's great.
That's okay. I mean, there's and here's the thing. Like Mark knows this about me. I support Maryland basketball. Yeah. I grew up with Lefty. I mean, hell, I supported Bob Wade when he was trying to make a go of it. I supported Gary I support Mark, and at some point, Mark won't be the coach, and I'll support whoever is the coach of Maryland basketball. It's like it's part of my identity as a human. I grew up in Cole next to my pop in that building, so like there's a passion for it that is can be positive, but it can be negative when it. Like, I guess I would say to you this. I would ask you this. Is it unreasonable for Maryland fans to say, guy went to one Sweet 16 in 10 years, that's not enough? That's not unreasonable.
That's right.
That's not unreasonable. But is it unreasonable to say, well, the first few years after post-Gary was a total rebuild, then you switch conferences and you look at what they've been since they've been in the Big Ten and say, well, it's 5 of 6 years. They won a game this year, and that, like, are they a losing program? Have they cratered? No, they've not. That's unreasonable. So I have stated that I think that the level of outrage isn't congruent with the results. But that's not unlike a lot of passionate fan bases. There are, hey, look,
they all
and by the way, Mark Turgeon wants more.
Of course.
And Damon Evans, the athletic director, wants more. Everybody wants more because, like, but you know what's funny, Jeff, is that, and you know this, before Gary had those 2 years, what were they saying about him? Now, they were consistently getting to Sweet 16s.
No, they wanted to get rid of him.
Of course they did. Of course they did. And so, like, I guess that you, like, your tongue is in cheek here when it comes to, am I worried? Like there's part of me that sees the amount of conversation from Maryland fans about this, and says, if Turge got a call from a Maryland alum, by the way, Castiglione, who said, hey, would you want this job? Like, there's part of me that would get it if he was like, hey, listen, I'll see you guys and we'll go there. I mean, I would understand if that were his reaction. I think the entire cycle this spring is going to be really interesting because it sounds like, and again, I defer to you, it sounds like there are more to come. And
I think so. I think so. Again, the Sean Miller at my alma mater, it's crazy right now. It's bananas. You hear it every single day, Scott. One day you'll hear he's going to be fired. The next day you'll hear he's going to get an extension. And again, for me, it's like for you, but I'm supposed to be more objective, and I am about Arizona. I try to be, but it's hard to be, right? I mean,
we're all from somewhere. It's the line I've said forever is we're all from somewhere. Like, and that's where you went to school, and so you have a different viewpoint of it. But like Sean, like Wade at LSU, like Bill at Kansas, like it's an amazing thing. Years after the fact, like everybody just sort of carried on, and who the hell knows? That's a different topic. But anyway, look, between jobs that are open and between the fact that the portal is like all bets are off, it is a complete mayhem. Yes, that's the word. It is a bar brawl like like we'll never have seen. And the thing about every kid that isn't, and maybe even kids that are like starring in their roles where they are, just like fans always want more, I think players always want more. And players convince themselves, even if they're in a good spot, like there's a better spot.
No, they don't convince themselves. Their people convince them.
Yeah, could be because everyone wants everyone they want to go to the league. And by the way, by all means, try to get there. I would never try to dissuade a kid from pursuing it, but it just, unfortunately, as we know, it's not always reasonable to think that the path is considerably improved by changing your station. I get a guy at a lower level.
Yes. And
you covered this. That it's a plague at that level. If you're, say, a Big South coach and you get a guy, he's leaving,
He's
like
good.
You get a CAA guy, probably leaving. And that's tough. But that's another topic. But I just think that the whole spring is the stories that'll come. And then we got a tournament, thank God. And I think it's the storylines are awfully compelling across the board.
Yeah, the ratings, I was surprised, Scott, that the ratings were as high as they are. They were 3% off in the first week than a year ago or 2 years ago. And it surprised me a little bit because, again, we don't have the heavyweights. We don't have Duke, Kentucky to root for or against. Michigan State's already gone. Arizona's not in. I mean, there's a lot of heavyweight programs that weren't in it. I thought it'd be a lot lower, but, people are home. right? People are home more now. I think that probably plays into it. And the storylines are kind of cool. I mean, this Oral Roberts thing is awesome. I don't know if you saw Paul Mills on the podcast that I did with the Kevin Bacon story.
Yeah, we had O'Banner on with us, and A. Smith, Mike Schmitz, who I think does a wonderful job covering prospects, and
the best.
He's so good. And he said A. Smith has really opened eyes. I wonder, like, who's he guard? He's small, but I mean, he could score it, and they were fearless. I mean, they've already played Arkansas this year and had a double-digit lead on them. Ended up losing by double digits because Arkansas could do that to you, flip it in a hurry. But I mean, look, here's the thing about a lot of teams that are like a fun story. There's a little bit of a eyes get big, right? The lights get bright, the stage gets big, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa. I don't think those dudes have any of that. Now, how many more games could they win? I mean, they can't win 4 more games.
No,
okay.
They can beat Arkansas.
I put it this way: if they lose, it won't be because the stage is too big. It'll be because Arkansas is too good. And there's a difference, because look at North Texas. I have no idea what happened to Purdue in that game. Part of it's North Texas's defense was like, they were blocking shots that the Boilermakers like, who was that, right? But then Jay Wright and Nova are like, okay, you guys were a one-day story. Like, to be a 2-game story in this tournament, that's a hell of a lot, And like, that takes it back to the Maryland conversation, where you realize, like, winning that second game, just getting to that second weekend, that's an accomplishment. It's hard to do. Iowa didn't do it. Illinois didn't do it. Ohio State didn't do it. Hell, only one Big Ten team did do it, which, given what their year was, is a pretty shocking, shocking and disappointing result for a conference that had 9 shots and only got 1 of the 16.
I wonder too how much, being here in person and seeing the crowds, which are sparse, obviously.
Yeah.
Got, Purdue in West Lafayette, it was 9%. I mean, empty. Hinkle's pretty good. Hinkle's the good one. Banker's Life is awful. It's just too big. It's too big. It looks like nobody's there. But I wonder how much, like, again, usually the big teams travel more. Now you've only got a certain amount of tickets anyway. So Oral Roberts has about the same amount of fans, and they probably will this weekend against Arkansas. The other thing, Scott, is they don't go back home in between. Normally, Oral Roberts, Asmus, and O'Banner would go back and get this hero's welcome, and you'd be worried as a coach of like, oh man,
right?
Is it going to get to their head? Is their head going to? Well, they got none of that here. They can't leave their damn hotel room, so they're not getting that.
There's a lot of that I wonder, as it relates to all these sports, like the absence of crowds. Like, you saw it a ton this year. Home court still mattered because you're familiar with the gym and the surroundings, and even though you're not hanging out, going to parties on campus, at least you're familiar with the surroundings. But I do feel like you saw home court not matter as much because you weren't dealing with 10,000, 15,000, however many fans. And I agree that, like, saying Oral having as many as Arkansas, so that makes it kind of a fair fight. But you've been in those buildings.
They're the underdog. Yeah.
Everybody in the building that isn't an Arkansas fan is rooting for Oral Roberts. And they would have had it against Ohio State, and they would have had it against Florida. So I think that the higher seeds, in a way, benefit from not having the crowds in those spots where the games are tight, because you know what it's like, man. I told the story on the pod with Steve about being in Cole 100 years ago when Richmond beat Syracuse, Billy Owens. And, like, I was just there as a person, but I'm cheering for Richmond. Like, my whole family went to Syracuse. Like, they're like, you're rooting for Richmond? I was like, I kind of got caught up, man. There's like 14,000 people were cheering for the underdog, and they won that night.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, like, it's just so weird here. I know you've been to a few. What are the big events that you've been to through the pandemic so far?
Well, I mean, I went to the Masters with no one, and no one. There was no one there. And it was wild. I had gone down to say hello to a player who, his name's Scotty Scheffler, and he's a young-ish guy who I had never met, and he had played really well at the PGA in San Francisco, where I was there as well, but I'd never met him. And so I just wanted to go say hello and introduce myself, and he was on the 18th green, and as I was walking back towards wherever, I'd see it down the road, yada, yada. And all of a sudden, like, I looked down at my feet, and the grass was really short, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, Oh, hell, I'm standing on the first tee, but there were no ropes because
Nothing.
there didn't need to be ropes because there were no people. But like, so just I had to reorient myself with a place I've been lucky to go for 20 some odd years, but I'm looking around like it was so strange, Jeff. And you know, at Augusta, just like the Final Four, I mean, you think about that, shot for Nova, the ball's in the air, and there's that hush, and then there's that roar. Like that roar that comes up in the building when a shot goes in is etched in your brain forever. Well, at Augusta, same story. Like I can hear Tiger, Tiger, Tiger in my ears for the rest of my life after he, makes that putt in 19 and they win. He wins, I should say. Well, then last year there's just nothing.
Yeah.
And it's so
that's how I feel. Yeah, that's how I feel this year. You don't want to complain because obviously you have a tournament, right? It's great to be able to watch games. But for me, there's 68 teams here, 68 head coaches, 3 assistants, players everywhere. It's like a field day for me if I had access to these guys. I'd be in the hotel up in rooms. Like normally, again, you've got 8 teams at every site, for me, and I'm bouncing around every day to a different site. Here, it's like nirvana in a way because everybody's here, but I have no access. They can't leave other than the only access I saw, so they can go to the ball field. They can go to the
I saw that. I remember seeing like Wisconsin. I saw Potter punting a ball.
Correct. That
Big
was my
leg,
video.
by the way. Yeah, exactly. It was your video I saw.
Through the gate, Scott. I got my phone ready and I'm going through the bars of the gate and zooming in as much as I can. And then when they come out, they've got an escort going right back to the hotel. So I'm talking a muscleman through the gate, 6 feet apart. That's the only access. Joe Golding, after Abilene Christian beat Texas, it was at Lucas Oil, and they cut it in half. Okay, they cut Lucas Oil in half so far. And he comes running over to me after they win. And I think I go back. Yeah. I said, Joe, no, don't give me a hug or anything. You'll be done for the damn tournament. No chance. You can't do it. It's just, it's weird. But again, it's better than nothing. It's just, like Indy right today, there's nobody here. Yeah. Everybody flew home.
Yeah. We're grateful to have it, right? Of course. But when you know what it is and what it feels like, and you compare it to what it feels like and sounds like, it just isn't. And I have there's a coach. They put it out there, so I can say it. Coach Tillman, who coaches the lacrosse team at Maryland's a guy I've gotten to know. Okay. And I asked him, how are the guys? And he's like, it's rough, man. They get up, they test, they go to virtual class, they come to practice, we could do study hall, they do training table, whatever. They go back to their apartments, they don't see people, there are no parties. They sit there, they wake up the next day, and they do it again. Yeah. And like, there are people in life that sacrifice, that go to war, or who are police men and women, who are firefighters, who are teachers, and who do things that are noble and who make great sacrifices. But let's not minimize what these men and women are sacrificing.
Hey, could you have done it? Could you have done it when you were a college student?
No chance. I'm an adult, and I think about like, could I do it? Are you kidding me? And so I did a Zoom with the team just to say, hey, like, I don't know what this means or if it matters, but just know that the people that are out here appreciate what you all are doing to provide this thing. And I mean that sincerely, because it is a sacrifice, and college isn't what it ought to be for them. And so these events aren't what they ought to be. And I think we all can kind of see around the corner that
it's not that far away.
We're not far away. Right, like I know lots of people, it's like, I got my first shot, I got my second. My mom long ago got hers, she's good. like, and I think that we're not going to have to deal with this as it is. But in the midst of it, it's a whole lot that these men and women and the different men's and women's teams, and all the men and women that are parts of these staffs, and how many people there are in the offices, and they're all having to do this to put on this event. So is it not the same? Nope. Is it as good? No. But I'm grateful, sincerely grateful, that that these folks are able to hunker down and go through it, because I wouldn't want to do it.
Who is I'm gonna put you in the spot here. Tough
All right.
one. Who's the coach, college hoops coach? You can't be a Maryland coach, that you are always most excited to interview? Who's the guy that you had like the best interview with, or have over and over, that you are just, when you have him on the show, you're like, all right, I can't wait for this one? Is there anybody?
Like Musselman's a fun dude. I'll tell you who I genuinely am excited to talk to every time, and that's Mark Few. You know why? Because he answers your questions, and because he's not full of what he like. They are a blue
He'll say
blood.
it the way he feels. He will.
Correct. No filter. No filter. They're a blue blood. Okay. Blue, like you talk Kansas, Kentucky, Duke, Carolina, Indiana through the years, blah, blah, blah. But they've become what they are now. They're not Loyola, who's underseeded at 8. They're a 1 for a reason. And like they recruit internationally. They get top 10 players in Suggs. They get guys that are going to be lottery picks in Kispert on top of it, who's a 4-year guy, which I love. Proves you don't have to leave early. But anytime you talk to Few, like, and Few, it's always like, we're just, it's kind of a little that smile, and he knows how good they are. But like, there's a lot of guys. Like, I love talking to Beard. Like, Beard's the same way too. Like, he's a guy, he's about toughness, and he recruits it, and his team reflects that kind of identity.
Can I give you my favorite Few story? Quick, like not even a story. I was at practice years ago in Spokane, and he's coaching in his like jean shorts. First of all, right? He's just whatever. He's probably come from fishing earlier. Practice ends. Literally, he's like, all right, come on. We walk about 100 yards to a tap, and we're drinking beers. Literally, I'm talking like less than 5 minutes after practice ends. I'm like, all right, this is the greatest thing ever. I mean, come on.
I should know the name of the bar because my guy Neil Everett is a big Gonzaga guy, and it's some Smokies
Jack and whatever it is.
Yeah, two people's names. That's it. That you were there.
I want to say Jack and Diane's, but it's not Jack and Diane.
It's not a John Cougar song. But I mean, I just, and I don't care what sport it is. I appreciate, because it's hard to maintain touch with reality and being grounded. And Fewey's that dude. Like he told me after the Baylor game didn't happen. He's like, yeah, me and Huggy, we put the game together on the back of a cocktail napkin in 5 minutes, which is, I don't doubt is true.
Oh, it's true.
But not everybody would share, like, not that there's anything to hide about that story, but just not, what it is. Not everybody gives you what it is, what's the truth is, or the specifics about how things happen. I just, do you root for people in the business? You outside of waving a flag for the team I grew up rooting for, you're objective. Like, there are a lot of great stories, but I think a lot of people in the sport, if Gonzaga were to cap this off, would say, that's a guy and a program who you can feel good about them winning because they've been on this trajectory for a long time.
Yep. You also love Fewey because he defended your boy Gary Williams years ago. I was at a blackjack table with the ops guy at Maryland at the time, okay? And he came after me because I had been critical of Gary towards the end. And he, literally, it's just us on the blackjack table. We're at the Palms. And he is coming at me about Gary. And Fewey's behind us. He's not playing, but he's right behind us, laughing at the whole thing. This dude he is relentless. Relentless enough at the end, Scott. I looked at him and I said, how much is it going to take for me to buy you off this table? Like, whatever it is, $500, $1,000, just so you can get the hell out of here. Now, I've become friendly with him since. But Fewey was defending the hell out of Gary. Now, I think he thought it was humorous that this guy was killing me for 2 hours.
We're nothing if not relentless. We're nothing if not relentless. And again, at the moment, we're in the middle of that. We're some are pitted against each other. People are anti me because they think I don't want Maryland to be great.
Pro Turge. Yeah, you're pro Turge because you're pro Maryland.
Well, I all I say to people that pretend like it's been a catastrophe is that is inaccurate. But if you want to have the conversation that can be better, we agree that I want it to be better. Just again, don't make up things that aren't accurate. Don't make up lies. Like, and I always say Wake Forest, and I don't mean to be mean to Wake Forest, but like point to a program. They went to Final Four. Like haven't been in the tournament since I don't know when. Like, just don't act like it's that. Right. But fans, like, I don't think being unreasonable as fans is unique to any one group. Like,
I'll tell you. No, I can attest to the fact that it's not.
You hate every team. I know, and you tell me that. You send me a text right before you tweet about a team to say, "Hey, Van Pelt, watch how much Kentucky thinks I hate him. Indiana thinks I hate him. Maryland thinks I hate him." Yeah. I'm kidding, obviously, but every fan base thinks.
Arizona thinks I hate him. I had to check in under assumed name in Tucson years ago. I mean, come on.
Come on. Like, I get our ops guy wanting to wreck you, but I don't understand. Bear down for Arizona wants to get after you.
Of course, I want him to be good. Now, can I say it like publicly, rah? No, but of course I want Arizona to be good, which is the very difficult position right now for any Arizona fan. Is it best to sever ties with Sean Miller today, or is it best to give him an extension? I say, honestly, and I like Sean. I think he's a really good coach. I say it's best to sever ties with him today.
Wow. Well, at some point, I think Arizona has to fear that knock at the door, right? I mean, at some point, unless there was an FBI meeting years ago with a bunch of charts and stuff that led to nothing. Well, I shouldn't say nothing. I mean, books like Don't Tell Me It's Nothing, you know, like it was real for some, but these programs have continued largely untouched.
Pretty much.
Look at Oklahoma State. Like think about that. And did I enjoy the Cade Cunningham story this year? Sure. He's a wonderful player, and Coach Boynton did a nice job with the team, and it was fun to see that building with some energy. Like, that's a fun program when they're good.
How does that appeal not get heard before the NCAA tournament, one way or the other?
And once they got good, there was no way that you could pull the plug, because it's like, well, wait a minute, they might get in. Oh, wait, they might be on the 8-9 line. Oh, crap, they might be a 4. Yep. And there were people that thought they were underseeded as a 4. So, like, again, Oklahoma State fans, I don't hate your team. I enjoyed watching them be in the tournament, and I enjoyed Cunningham all year. But, like, it's just astounding to me that doesn't even happen all year. And then these other ones that were part of that, like, nothing happened. I tell every coach I know, cheat your balls off. Right. Because what difference does it make? Nothing happens.
You're absolutely right. I mean, at this point, like, again, we'll see what happens at the conclusion of all these, but it's taken so long. We almost are immune to everything now. It's like, who cares?
And you know what it actually is? I think it's even different than that, Jeff. I think it's not who cares. I think when the suggestion is that Zion got money to go to Duke, good, he should. Right. And here's why. Because the players should get money and should be compensated for name and likeness, which I agree with, has reached the point where it is so much support for that, so much vocal support for that the suggestion that somebody did actually get money, which they weren't allowed to get.
People like they should have.
Yeah, exactly right. He was still underpaid. So no one cares. Nobody cares.
Or they were getting it anyway. Like to me, it's like the name, image, likeness. They're all getting paid anyway, is what people say. So why not let them get paid legally?
Yeah, and again, and I want to make sure I'm consistent. And to say they get nothing is not true, because they do, as we know. They get you get plenty in terms of compensation. And Zion benefited massively by being the face of that Duke program for that year. He came in a known guy, yes, but he reached a rare level as a result.
He's not going to be the number one pick. He was not going to be the number one pick coming to Duke.
And he wasn't going to get the numbers he got for his shoe deal either. So there was benefit. That said, they should still be able to benefit from name, likeness, and image 1,000%, because they shouldn't be, their sweat equity shouldn't go into somebody else's pocket. They ought to be able to participate in that. Maybe it's semantics. It's just the idea that they're doing it for free. It ain't free, but it's also not reasonable compensation for what they provide. But again, that's a topic unrelated.
Right, let's do 10 minutes on the tournament. Let's do 10 minutes of actually talking games. I know I feel bad here that, we've been bullshitting about it, because we could go for 2 hours. We know
you and me. Yeah. I got nothing to do, bro. Let's keep going.
We'll keep going. We'll go for another 20 minutes on the tournament here. All right.
Let's go.
All right. You're the game you want to see. The game you are dying to see in the Sweet 16 is what?
Oh, in the Sweet 16? Hold on. because I want to make sure I don't just say the first thing that enters my head.
I'll buy you a little bit of time. I'll buy you a little bit of time and give you. For me, it's probably Gonzaga Creighton because it's visually pleasing, and I don't know if Creighton can beat them, but I think finally we might get like a real test for Gonzaga, and Creighton can score. If Mitch Ballack can make like 6 or 7 threes, which he's going to need to do, and Marcus Zagorowski somehow, and these are ifs. Zagorowski's really good. Could he outplay Suggs?
No.
Then it's a game. All right, he can't.
I don't think so.
All right.
I mean, Zagorowski's really good. I'm
not going to tell Zach and Mandy Zagorowski that you said that.
I didn't say their son wasn't good. I just said that like the guy who's going to be a top 5 pick is probably going to be hard to outplay, but he's plenty capable of it. All right, Oregon, USC, because Oregon got run by USC earlier this year, but like I'm interested in it just because I want to see. They've both been excellent thus far, but the answer is Syracuse, Houston, and the reason is I watched that Houston team. They needed every single thing to go wrong for Rutgers and right for them at the end for it to equal what it did, and it went their way. I mean, Johnson misses an alley-oop at the rim. They hit it would have made it 10. Then they hit a 3, and then it just everything goes.
It was insane.
Well, it's the tournament in a nutshell. But people always forget that if they make it to the Final Four, they'll forget that Rutgers should have beat them. And then Syracuse, when I saw them on the 11 line, Jeff, when the reveal came out, I'm like, wow. I thought it was, frankly, I didn't think they deserved it.
First 4, right? First 4 is what you thought.
If they made it, yes. Like, look at their resume. What was their resume? What was it based on? And that I conveniently forgot that when Boeheim gets to this tournament, they've got it, man. Like, they've got the perfect recipe. Like, they've got the recipe where maybe they're not great in the regular season, but when they get there, they're put them in the second weekend. And watching Buddy Boeheim shoot and scream, "I'm an effing bucket!" Like, good for you, man. People,
I love that kid.
So do I.
I did a story. I did a story on he and his dad when he was at the Peach Jam his junior year. First of all, he's like the nicest, sweetest kid in the world. Okay, like the best. But the best part of the story was when I was talking to him about his relationship with his dad. He's 17, 18 at that point. His dad's like 71, maybe 72 at that point. And he literally looked at me and he's like, "My dad's my best friend."
Awesome.
Like, damn. Like that's unbelievable. Like, I want my daughter to say that about me. Like,
of course. Yeah,
awesome.
I mean, it really is.
They sit around, they watch TV shows and hang out.
And he took a lot of crap about him not being good enough. And he's plenty good enough. And so I think of all of them,
it's a great storyline. It's a great storyline game.
And I think Kelvin is very underappreciated as a coach. I think he's excellent as a coach. Just like I think that there are probably 3 or 4. Like, I think Altman's an excellent coach who's had a ton of success that kind of gets overlooked.
Yep.
I think Kelvin. I think Leonard Hamilton. Look at his run in the tournament. Like, how many times did they get to Elite Eights? That's another one. Like, the game I'm looking for most in the next round is Michigan, Alabama, because what Alabama did in that game against Maryland is, like, they're going to try to do it again. I don't know if they can make 16 threes, but it won't be because they don't try them. They're going to let it rip. And Michigan has shown, I think, a rare ability, Jeff, to eat a flurry of your best punches and not blink. Like that Maryland game in the Big Ten tournament, Maryland was playing as well as they can play. They're up double digits, and Michigan had the lead by the half. Like, they absorb your blows. They're body blow, body blow, body blow. Okay. You still good? Because we got 20 more on the clock. LSU played their ass off, and Michigan didn't blink.
Yep.
So I'm really interested in, and that doesn't mean that Michigan couldn't lose to Florida State or that Bama couldn't lose to UCLA. I'm just saying if we got the one and the 2, and they play to their ceilings, I'm really interested in who's better if that happens.
Listen, I don't think, and I don't want to say this, but I think it's true. Like, the Sweet 16 matchups aren't awesome.
No, Cowherd had the great line years ago about upsets. Everybody loves the upset until the next round when it's like, oh, I would have probably rather seen the better team, yes. Right?
Yeah, I'm not really that interested in Alabama, UCLA. I'm not. I don't think UCLA did enough to even really get in the tournament. And they've beaten 3 ho-hum, a bad Michigan State team. I mean, and a couple teams that really they've had a nice easy road. So, yeah, I listen. The Elite Eight matchups could be fantastic.
Agreed.
Absolutely fantastic. The Sweet 16 matchup, Baylor Villanova. I saw it a year ago in Myrtle Beach. Believe it or not, that was the first time I saw kind of this Baylor team. And I remember after the game, they beat Villanova in what was the best offensive game I saw all of last season.
Yeah.
And
I remember that.
I remember telling Scott Drew, I talked to Jared Butler after the game, and I told Scott Drew, I'm like, I think you got something like really, really special here.
Yeah.
First of all, you just beat Villanova. Like Villanova is just that program. And I wish they had Colin Gillespie, because I think this would be by far the best game of the Sweet 16.
Agreed.
It wouldn't even be close. I just don't know if Villanova can, the first 2 games against Winthrop and North Texas. Now you go to Baylor. And oh, by the way, Baylor's got like 2 MFers for guards, and Mark Vital up front. Like the Mark Vital, Jeremiah Robinson Earl matchup, because I think that's what it's going to end up being. Baylor going small is going to be absolutely awesome, because Vital is maybe the toughest dude in this tournament.
Yeah, well, they got, and dude's the right word, as you know, and MFer is actually the correct word. Like, they've got a bunch of them. And, the line all year that they've got 8 starters is not incorrect. I mean, the people they cycle in, there's no drop off, man. Gonzaga, I watched the game against BYU where it wasn't that they didn't guard. BYU just shot the piss out of the ball. Right. They made 53 at the half. They made a zillion threes, and BYU played great. And then Gonzaga won by double figures. Gonzaga's ceiling, what I just hope we see people play to their ceiling and find out whose is better. Because Gonzaga and Baylor, they differentiated themselves early on.
Yep.
I feel like Michigan, and it's a shame that Livers isn't healthy, because they're, in my opinion, we're right there. And Bama's just different because the way they play gives them an opportunity to add it up quicker, right? So I feel like Steve and I had a conversation on our podcast the other day. How many teams do you really think are left who could win 4 more games? Because right now, as we sit here, you're a third of the way to a title. So there's some cool stories, man. But Jeff,
maybe a half dozen.
Maybe. I don't think it's that many. I really don't believe.
Well, you got Gonzaga, you got Baylor, you got Michigan if they get Livers back. Alabama can go on a run.
Then who else? Florida State, can they win 4 more games? I don't know.
I mean, could Arkansas? It's got to be somebody from the right side of the bracket, I think.
Well, that's part of it too. And that's why I think you could argue, for Michigan or Alabama, it's harder because the road's going to include one or the other.
That's what I'm saying. Arkansas gets Oral Roberts, then they'd have to beat Baylor. Obviously, that's a big one. And
so go to the Houston bracket. Go to the Houston bracket. If you beat Syracuse, you're going to get, you're going to get probably Loyola. But guess what? That team, they kicked Illinois' ass, Jeff. Man. They were better from the start.
Amazing.
And I get what Underwood was doing. He's like, we're going to keep giving it to Coburn. But at some point, it's I got it for a while, but then at some point, it's man, that ain't working.
You're trading baskets at best at that point. And defensively, you're dropping Coburn every time and abusing him.
I was so impressed. And I tried to say this on Twitter, but it was hard. It's hard to really get the meaning of what I was trying to say. Abilene Christian beating Texas, that's an upset. Texas turned it over, I think, 704 times. And Abilene shot 30%. And they won by a point on a free throw late. And it's got all that you think about for March, the great story and a coach saying we just little old Abilene and we beat Texas. That's awesome. But if they played tomorrow, Texas wins that game.
They're going to win 9 out of 10.
Probably by a lot. Well, if Loyola and Illinois played again tomorrow,
you take Loyola.
Based on what I saw, I would. And that's not a slap at Illinois. That's because Loyola, Porter Moser's got people that are in his program for 3 and 4 years that know what they do. And that diminishes that they're talented too, because they are. Yeah. But They're the class. Like, do they have a single guy that's lottery? No. Do they have a first round pick? No. But the sum of the parts is exactly what can win you some games.
Where would you go if you're Porter Moser's agent? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to give you these three options right now, and I might even throw in a fourth. Now that Oklahoma opened, if I'm Joe Castiglione, I got to have him on my list. I'm not, and Joe's a guy that will go outside the box. We've seen that with football a little bit, obviously with Lincoln Riley. Like, he's not afraid. He's made enough great hires. So if you're Porter Moser, do you go to Marquette, where I think he is probably number one? I'm guessing right now. I don't have. Well, I'm pretty sure he's towards the top, if not at the top. Okay, you stay at Loyola, or if Indiana calls and they have not yet, do you go to Indiana?
To me, this is really simple.
Okay, for me too, but you're not going to answer it the way I am. Probably. Go ahead.
Really?
We'll see.
Indiana, and I don't think twice.
I go Marquette.
Okay, well, I'll tell you why. First of all, at Loyola, you've done more than anyone could ever reasonably expect you to do. You're going to lose the most significant contributors to this run. Yeah. You've demonstrated that you can do the most important thing in this sport, and that's win games in this tournament, and do so as a lower seed against power conference teams. You've demonstrated that. Indiana, though it is removed from its greatest moments, and frankly pretty far removed. I know Indiana fans like look, we're talking about a long time. Like, look at what they've been since they lost to the Maryland in the title game. Look at that stretch of almost 20 years. There's not a lot, okay? But you're still Indiana. And the whole idea of, in my opinion, like the whole candy stripes and the names, and you could say, well, it's kind of Dallas Cowboys. Like, you're known, but are you relevant? Right. Kind of a lot like the Cowboys. Like, you're a long way removed from when you won titles, but you're like Indiana. The notion of like Hoosiers, the notion of a barn with a bucket on it, like romantically. And I think the chance to say, if you're going to put the full weight of that university behind me, like, I think a coach would want to find out what he is there. Not that you couldn't at Marquette, and I'm curious why that's your answer.
I think it fits him better.
I don't know him. I don't know him at all. So you would know better there.
I just think the expectations are so high at Indiana that even if you get in the tournament and you go to a Sweet 16, it's not going to be enough. And oh, by the way, a lot of the support, a lot of the resources in Indiana are antiquated. At Marquette, they've got resources up the ass. I mean, they literally, they're top 10 in the country.
That's a big deal. That's because kids like bells and whistles. And if you don't have the, practice facilities and the nice stuff, then guys are like, well, why do I want to deal with that? But
who are you scared of? You're scared of Villanova because they're Villanova in the Big
in that league.
You're scared of UConn a little bit because Danny Hurley's got that thing going. Creighton's probably going to come down to earth a little bit. I honestly do think it's going to hurt Greg McDermott in recruiting going forward. Everything that happened. Providence, Butler's fallen off. Are you scared of St. John's, Georgetown? No. I mean, really. That's why I would go to Marquette. You can finish in the top 3 in the Big East. You can be in the tournament most years. You have a job that, honestly, if you're ranking the jobs in the Big East, you're probably saying Villanova, then I would say Georgetown, personally. I'm way higher on the Georgetown program than I think everybody else.
That's tough just because, they play downtown in D.C. and nobody goes, man. Like, it's like at Marquette, I think that you still, from a support threshold, I would think that you'd have more there. I see what you're saying.
Players, Scott, you got so many players in that area.
Without question.
Maryland.
No doubt. Like, you're right in the middle of a recruiting hotbed for certain. But I think I don't know. I don't know him, so I don't know how he's wired.
The schools are, well, you know what he is? I'll tell you how he's wired. He is super positive, high energy. So, like, where Archie, the problem I felt like with Arch at Indiana, and I think Arch is a great coach. I really do. I think he's
so do I. I thought it was a home run, and they never made the tournament.
Everybody did. Yeah. All of us did. What we didn't realize, and there were some other things, obviously, if they brought McKinley Wright, one of the big things, and I said this, So they had McKinley Wright signed at Dayton. They wanted to bring him to Indiana. Tom Crean had oversigned. They couldn't. They didn't want to run everybody off. So believe it or not, all that, if they had McKinley Wright, they would have been in the tournament. You know that, whatever.
Of course.
So Archie Miller wanted Ohio State. Okay. He fits Ohio State better. Kind of like Sean. They're all about coaching. They're not touchy-feely. He didn't want Indiana really in a sense of being in a fishbowl. He wanted a football school. He had been an assistant at Ohio State, and then he takes Indiana, and 2 months later, Thad is fired at Ohio State. Wow. So in like his mind, he's always thinking like, man, like that's the one.
Sure.
That's the one I wanted. He just doesn't fit Indiana. Porter Moser fits Indiana from a personality standpoint really well. High energy, upbeat, glass half full. I just think Marquette is better for him. And Indiana fans will kill me for this because they've killed me for everything. I mean, making fun. Listen, they still thought even after Brad Stevens answered my question last week, again, he had answered it twice. He had already answered it, but the rumors persisted. So I had to ask him again. And then that's when he came out with his great quote
about an asshole.
Yeah, it was so good. So good.
It was, because it was so not what you expected to hear from him.
Exactly.
But they try to speak that into existence, and now I don't know where they'll land. I don't know who the candidates, realistic or otherwise, are. But I think a guy who's demonstrated again that he can get to the tournament and win games without the types of players he'll be able to get at Indiana, and to win as a double-digit seed and now as an 8 seed. That's the most important thing you can do, is win games in the tournament. And so you're dealing with a lot tougher league, as we saw this year. You don't often have those games on your schedule that you go, all right, well, we're good for those two. You know what I'm saying? No, I mean, Nebraska is in a rough spot, I get, but beyond that, it's.
Do you have an answer? Like, I'm sure you've been asked this question, as have I, over the last 4 or 5 days. Why the Big Ten just completely tanked? Do you have any kind of thoughts on? Obviously, people are like, well, they've been in Indiana so long, in Indianapolis, and this and that.
Yeah.
I felt like they were good, but I didn't know. Again, I never bought Wisconsin. I never bought Maryland as a team that could go beyond the first round. I never bought, like Iowa. You always knew that they could lose in the first round, even because they weren't a team that was really good defensively, even though the numbers said otherwise late in the year. Illinois was a surprise. They were the
the staying in Indiana thing, like the Groundhog Day, whatever. Like I get it, but no, that doesn't add up. To me, it's very simple, and maybe people think it's a lazy answer, but it's a one-off, man. It's a 40-minute tournament, and like Texas, if Shaka's talking to you right now and you say, how the hell did you lose that game? I have no idea, right? Ask Holtman. Like, you guys are up 4 with the ball twice late. How do you lose? I have no idea. Like, I don't know what happened to Purdue. I thought they were ready to make a run. I really like that team. And so, like, it becomes, see, the Big Ten sucked. They're a fraud. No, that's not what it was. Because you can't say all this Ken Palm rankings are wrong and then go, yeah, but look at Loyola. They were 9. Like,
listen, I don't think they were quite as good as what we made it out to be.
Maybe not, but again,
still very good.
Look at how and why did Ohio State lose? How and why, like, Wisconsin just played Baylor, and Wisconsin didn't play bad. Like, you just weren't going to play good enough to beat them. Maryland actually played pretty well the first maybe 8 or 9 minutes against Bama. Bama had 2 huge, like, 19-4 runs. Like, they made 16 threes. And by the way, like you said, they already had won a game as an underseed. So, like, to me, that's about what you thought you'd get. It's the higher seeded teams,
Illinois.
Illinois
is the one.
And Iowa. For the Achilles heel all year was, well, if they don't guard, then it could be a problem. I mean, when you give up 56.5 to Oregon, and Lucas scores 36, and you're just has Fran made the Sweet 16 at Iowa? I don't believe he has. That's amazing to me. And that's
Fran
like,
was in trouble for a while. If you remember, first 4 years, he didn't do a whole heck of a lot. And obviously this group's been pretty good. And again, I don't want to say they got lucky, but they got a little bit lucky with Luka. Nobody thought Luka was going to be Luka.
No, I mean, and when he was on the pod and he talked about it, like at Murray, like in the high school basketball in the DMV, like they're not even in the best league in the area. And he went through all the D1 guys from the time he was here. It's preposterous. And he's a 3-star that like Maryland got crushed for not going after. And it's like, well, at the time, like you're talking to like Bruno Fernando's and this and that. And you're like, well, look at him and look at this guy from Murray. Like he can't do it. Well, give that. I couldn't have more appreciation for somebody that worked his butt off, made himself better, made himself a pro, leaves Iowa as the all-time leading scorer, and he's also he's just such an impressive young man. But that has to happen in coaching.
Got to get some luck. Listen,
you got to evaluate well and get lucky because like I was amazed, Jeff. Kentucky, Duke, and Carolina all had at least 5 top 60 freshmen this year. They won 0 tournament games. That's incredible. Like they had all the 5-stars, won nothing. Look at Loyola. Look at Baylor. Look at Gonzaga. Like you got a ton.
I did something on Baylor, Scott, a month and a half ago, where each guy, how they got to Baylor. Think about this. 2 players on Baylor, both their transfers, had 1 scholarship offer coming out of high school. Maceo Teague and Adam Flagler, both in their top 7, right?
Yeah.
I mean, again, nobody knew. Davion Mitchell transferred after 1 ho-hum year at Auburn, right? Like Jared Butler was a fringe top 100. Like it's amazing. You need some luck.
Asmus had 2 offers. Oral Roberts and Marist, 2 offers.
Amazing.
And Garza's a 3-star that people were like, I mean, and that's that. Like there's just that's the
beauty of it.
The beauty, exactly. The tournament, getting a chance for guys like that to elevate their stories. And, I think we're kind of covering all of it, like how hard it is to win, how much we should celebrate the fact that when you do, you got to enjoy that you did because it ain't easy, man. And I don't know. I'm grateful that we've got it again. I don't know if I'll ever get over not having last year's tournament. And I'll like a guy like a Cassius Winston, like a 4-year dude, like they're ready to go make a run. That's why I'm so happy for the kid.
Right, yeah. Penn State having a chance to
they were going to get there. I mean, there were a lot of people that didn't get that. So for like a Kispert, a 4th-year dude, I'm just excited to see him get a chance with a team that's got a chance. And who you got?
So who? Last thing before you get out, I assume you pick Gonzaga before the tournament to win it all.
I did.
To beat Baylor.
This is so embarrassing. They asked me to come on a show and pick a Final Four, and I hadn't picked a bracket. And so I kind of went through it piecemeal in my head, and my bracket was a catastrophe. But I don't even know who. Oh, you know what? I know who it was. It was Gonzaga over Purdue. I had Purdue the Final Four. That ended early. Hey, I had Texas in there too. My God.
Me too.
So I had a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4. So but like if I was gonna go to the window and put
you do a redo right now.
Put $5 on somebody. Well, excuse me. I think I'd bet Baylor just because I think the value you would get, the get back for your $100, you'd get $250 back for $100.
Right.
I think I'd look at Baylor just because from what I see from them. Like I watched Oklahoma, like they scored it and scored it and scored it. You're never going to get over the hump against a team like Gonzaga. Like I wonder if Gonzaga, if they meet Baylor, I just wonder if they can keep scoring with Baylor. And I don't know the answer. I think it'd be fun to find out.
Yeah, I took Baylor to win it all before.
Did you from the beginning?
Yeah, I did. I just think if Baylor gets back, I like the matchup against Gonzaga because again, I don't think Gonzaga's guards. Think about it. Like Baylor's guards can keep up with Suggs.
Yep.
They can keep up with Suggs. They're big, strong, physical, athletic guards. And listen, Timmy's the matchup nightmare.
For sure.
But you put Vital on Timmy? That's not a bad matchup.
Well, no, because you could go big guys or you could go smaller guys that can just body.
I would go Vital. I would just go Vital and say, hey, we don't need anything else. Just make sure Timmy's just so much fun. He might be like the most fun player in the country in a sense. The personality, the way he plays, the things he can do off the bounce and in the post. He knows what he is, right? He's not out there jacking threes trying to be a first-round pick. I love Drew Timme.
The thing about them, if they play, and I'm opening up Baylor here just to see how many, like, go through, like, okay, so if you say Suggs, Kispert, Timme, and then Gonzaga's they've got other guys, okay?
Ayayi,
yes, of course. But hear me out. Like, could Butler give you 20 for Baylor? Could Teague?
Yes.
Yeah. Could Davion?
Yep.
Could Meyer, if you let him get enough minutes to shoot enough?
100%.
Like Vital, I'm not thinking, but Flagler, is he capable?
Yep.
Like I just feel
Capable
like
of making 5 or 6 threes, Flagler.
I think So I just feel like there are more wild cards that if again when I think about these,
if you hold Kispert down somehow, which I don't know if you can do, but if somehow you put, Butler or Davion or rotate those guards.
Some combo, right?
Yeah, you figure out a way to make it so Kispert does not have a Kispert night. All right, I like my chance.
Right, so who's it going to be? And when I think of these matchups, Jeff, and I think this is probably human nature. In my head, I imagine them playing to their ceiling. Like I imagine them playing high level, not some game where it's like Butler UConn, like just this. What is this, man? Like somebody make a bucket. That wouldn't happen. We would have, I hope, high level stuff. And then so if that happens, does Butler have enough or more? I'd love to see that happen. I'd love to see it happen. But I don't know. That's what's fun is. I
hope we get it. I hope we get a Gonzaga, which is nuts to say that's the matchup. Like if you'd said that 2 or 3 years ago, you'd be like, Butler. I mean, Baylor, Gonzaga. Come on, really?
And I hope we get it just because we were going to earlier, and then we didn't.
Yep.
And all year they felt like Baylor had they looked a bit of a mess post COVID, but most teams did. Most teams looked pretty vulnerable after that. But I mean, I feel like there are enough cards in the deck where some combination of them will come out in a way where you go, all right, like I like what we've got here.
Yeah.
And if it's some team that we really haven't talked a lot about, then they're great because it will have meant they earned their way there. And nobody's ever won 6 games by accident, man. That's why these banners mean so much because you might win 2. That's a nice accomplishment. Get to an Elite 8, you got a shot. You win 4, like celebrate that. Hang a friggin' banner and go, man, that's really cool because it's hard to do. But you hang the big one. You win 6. No BSers hung 6, man. There's just no way to do it. No way to do it.
When so you go, when is the Masters? Right? Is it the same time? Is it right after?
2 weeks. I have a week next week where I'm off, and then I come back from being away, and then go directly to the Masters that following week.
Why don't you come out? Why don't you come out to Indy next week if you're off?
It sounds so compelling. It sounds like so much fun watching people punt on a baseball field through
access.
Yeah, and not be. Is that Elmo's joint open where you can get that horrible cocktail sauce?
I already got it. I brought it back to my room the other night. Oh my God! I forget. You don't like it. You can't handle it.
No, it's not handle. It's unpleasant. It doesn't make the meal better. Stanford Steve eats it with his hands.
Does he?
Not really, but he likes hot. And we went there for the Super Bowl that one year, and him and Russillo are sitting there, and I'm like, I heard about this stuff. I take a bite, and I'm like,
your nose, right? Your nose.
Well, it was like the Ted Lasso. I'm like, I said, is my tongue still in my head? Because I feel like I'm hallucinating right now. It was hallucination set in. And I'm like, this is unpleasant, man. I want a sauce that improves the flavor of whatever I'm eating, and I'll put it on there. It doesn't make it better. There's this badge of honor. Look how much of this sauce I put on there. Oh, good for you. You're a man, and I'm not. I'll take a shrimp and I'll eat it with a little something, but not that. No thanks.
You know what? We got to see next podcast. We're gonna when Hummel gets back to Indy, he's doing the Division II title game today.
Oh, it's very cool.
He couldn't be with us. He's in Evansville, Indiana. When he gets back to Indy, I think next podcast we're going to have him do the shrimp cocktail on the pod. We'll see how he does with it.
I mean, it's I don't want to overstate it. It's not like it's quadruple hot sauce or the way. But it's if you get the wrong combo of whatever that horseradishy stuff is in there, like it'll open you up. Like
No doubt,
plus,
no doubt.
you definitely hallucinate a little bit. But hey, tell Hummel that I'm a big fan, man. He's doing great work with you guys and on all the play-by-plays.
You got to get him on. You got to get him on your show.
Well, I want to come on. Like I'll come on with you, and we'll get him on with me. It's just we're running out of runway for this year for college hoops with us. But I mean, like hopefully it's a long life.
He's the best. Honestly,
really
I mean this.
Oh, I agree.
Hummel, one of the best human beings. And again, the great thing about Hummel, he can be honest, and you do this well too. I don't do it well. You guys can be honest without offending. I don't do that. I don't know why. I never learned that.
Because you're an asshole.
I guess that might be it. I'm the true asshole. I'm not 44, but I'm the true asshole.
No, you're not. You're I know, you're just gonna say what you think. I admire that. I always have to figure out how to try to be not political, but I got to try to take the edge off. You get some edges, but that's why I love you, man. And it's good.
Love you too. Love you too. Always good shooting the shit and catching up. We got to do this. We'll do it more often. You know, I want to get in. The next one is going to be the off-season one where we get more into your career. So we'll do that at some point and tell some more stories. Always good catching up. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk soon.
I look forward to it, brother. Be good.
Later, man.
Thanks.